Hi, I'm Candice Lin. Thanks so much for joining me. I'd like to welcome you to a virtual walkthrough of my exhibition, Pigs and Poison. This exhibition is the culmination of the last several years of research that I've been doing on the 19th century Chinese indentured labor, known as coolie labor. I was really interested in how national anxieties about these immigrants played into narratives about disease and contagion and shaped U.S. immigration policies, which continue to this day. So when you enter the Govett-Brewster Art Gallery, you will be confronted by a locked barricade. This sculpture is titled, "A Robot Wrote What My Father Spoke," and it features a wall topped with razor wire with Chinese and English characters cut out of it. On the side that faces us are Chinese characters that are a Google translation of the phrase meaningless squiggles, which comes from an essay by the philosopher John Searle, which he uses to describe the inscrutability of the Chinese language. You'll notice that the formal entrance to the exhibition, the welded gate with two eyes, is permanently locked. So to enter the show, you actually have to go all the way down the wall and through the hole that is cut out of it. Passing through the wall, you'll see two figurative sculptures that I call the witnesses. These eerie figures are cloaked in fabrics that are woven with designs from my drawings, and their ceramic mask faces are a reference to the iron muzzles that were used to punish slaves, which were also similar to European medieval scold's bridles, which were used to silence overly outspoken women. These witnesses stand silenced but present in vigil to the little-known histories that this exhibition attempts to shed some light onto. So let's go ahead and go up the stairs, and in the mezzanine you'll find some books and information about my past works and projects. There's also a short video where you can see me in my studio at home in Altadena, California. Going up the stairs further to the second gallery, you will first notice a large waxy flesh sculpture. If you lean in close, you might be able to hear that the sculpture is purring, whether it is with contentment or a kind of ominous breathing. I'll leave that up to you to decide. Along the wall there are several paintings and drawings. The large work in the center is a piece of handmade paper that I made from boiling the plant fibers of sugarcane, yucca, cotton pulp, and poppy stems with indigo. These are all plants that relate to the history of the 19th century indentured labor. I created this handmade paper by beating the fibers after boiling them with a wooden mallet and then straining them through an old window screen and pressing them to dry in my yard. If you look closely, you might be able to see a few fallen leaves from the Chinese elm tree that is in my backyard that got embedded in the process. The paintings on either side of this handmade paper are painted with wax, pigment, and lard, which replaces the usual linseed oil that is used in oil painting. This lard, or pig fat, is a reference to the title of the exhibition Pigs and Poison, which in itself was a derogatory 19th century phrase that was used to refer to the trade in coolie labor and opium. Coolies were referred to as pigs or piglets, and the long braid of hair that they wore was often called a pigtail. The paintings depict Chinatown in San Francisco and Honolulu at the turn of the century, when an outbreak of bubonic plague was blamed on the Chinese residents, and their neighborhoods were set on fire. There are also 2 images of rats being sorted. Rats, as well as pigs, were associated with the Chinese, as well as being associated with disease. It was rumored that the Chinese habit of eating rats was what caused the bubonic plague outbreaks, which is not unlike the political rhetoric around the coronavirus, which linked the outbreak of the virus to Chinese appetites for exotic animals such as bats. On the side wall, you will see 4 smaller drawings. These are part of a series I refer to as plant drawings because I create them in a process where I brew a tincture of a plant that I'm researching, such as opium poppy or sugar cane or tobacco. I soak it in alcohol for 6 weeks, and when the liquid is finished being steeped, I take a dose of that plant and I make the drawing while I'm under the influence of that plant. The imagery is unplanned and is whatever comes to mind while I'm in that state. The ink for these drawings is made from crushed oak galls made from a medieval recipe, and the paper that they are drawn on is the blotting paper that was used to make the handmade paper from Map to an Unknown Sea. Going up to the 3rd gallery, you will see a fabric sculpture that resembles a beaked bird or a plague doctor that's hanging from the ceiling. Inside that leather mask is a virtual reality helmet which shows an alternate version of the exhibition, an apocalyptic world that is desolate and full of industrial junk that lays alongside the sculptures. In it, the trebuchet launches flesh lumps that shudder with viscous liveliness, and in the shadows of the viewer's peripheral vision in the virtual reality are silhouettes drawn from 19th century racist political cartoons that you can only see in short glimpses before they melt and disappear. Inside the room in Gallery 3, the walls are painted black with bone black pigment, a color created from charcoal from burned animal bones. In the 19th century, a report that interviewed Chinese workers in Cuba stated that the bodies of the workers were not buried but were burned with the bodies of livestock to produce bone charcoal, and that bone charcoal was used to refine sugar and make it more white. The diagram on the wall outlines this process. Nearby, a steady stream of water drips onto a table of moldy books. These are the forgotten histories of the coolie laborers. By the doorway, the slender form of another flesh lump lies inert like a corpse waiting to be burned into bone charcoal and is purring softly. On the walls are 3 more paintings that connect the historical migration of indentured Chinese labor to contemporary migrants attempting to cross the U.S.-Mexico border. The images with pig corpses dressed in human clothing refer to the Undocumented Migration Project, an anthropology project by Jason de Leon and his team of researchers that look at U.S. border policies and attempt to track human lives that are lost in the desert by tracking the bodies of pigs. The 3rd painting reimagines old master paintings such as Matisse's painting of the Red Studio or Vincent van Gogh's painting The Night Cafe, with its strange lighting and vivid red walls. But it is drawn from a photograph of a of an abandoned house that migrants are brought to wait in while attempting to cross the border. Walking over to Gallery 4, you can see the wooden trebuchet, which is fired off periodically, launching cannonballs that are made of lard and bone black pigment at the white wall. The trebuchet, as well as the flesh-like sculptures and the plague doctor outfit, all reference the plague that happened at the siege of Kaffa in 1346, where it was said that the Black Death was spread by the use of a trebuchet that the Mongols used to catapult the dead bodies of humans and horses who were infected with the plague into the besieged city. In the background hang plague doctor cloaks that are waiting to be donned before the trebuchet is launched and fired. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough. It was great to get to talk to you about some of the details of each of the works. I hope it added interest and context to what you're seeing, and thanks so much for visiting the show.